Some stories are born from comfort, but mine was born from fear, silence, and a single decision that almost ended my life. Even now, as I remember those days, my heart feels heavy, because this is not just a story of faith, but a story of persecution, pain, and courage that changed me forever. What I am about to share began quietly, in hidden thoughts and secret moments, yet it grew into something powerful enough to shake a palace and test my life itself. Before you continue reading, please take a moment to comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us connect as one family and continue to pray for one another, no matter our country, language, or background. My name is Aliyah bint Faisal, and this began in the year 2016, when I was 19 years old. I was a Saudi princess, born into wealth, guarded by tradition, and surrounded by strict rules that shaped every breath I took. From the outside, my life looked perfect. Inside the palace walls were gold doors, long halls, and servants who bowed their heads whenever I passed. Yet inside my heart, there was confusion, fear, and a quiet hunger for truth. I lived under constant observation. Every movement mattered. Every word mattered. As a woman, and especially as a princess, my life was already decided for me. What I should wear, how I should speak, where I should go, and what I should believe were all controlled. Faith was not just a belief, it was law. Any step outside it was considered betrayal, shame, and crime. From a young age, I was taught obedience through fear. I saw how people disappeared after being accused of disobedience. I saw tears wiped away quickly so no one would notice weakness. I saw punishment carried out in public so that fear would spread faster than questions. These memories stayed with me, shaping how careful I became. Yet questions still grew inside me. Late at night, when the palace became quiet and the guards changed shifts, I often sat by my window. I looked at the dark sky and wondered why my heart felt empty, even though my life was full of luxury. I wondered why prayers felt heavy instead of peaceful. I wondered why love for God was taught through punishment instead of compassion. These thoughts frightened me more than any guard or law. One day, during a rare trip outside the palace, I noticed something unusual. Through the tinted glass of our vehicle, I saw a small building that looked different from the mosques I knew. It was simple, quiet, and almost hidden. I later learned it was a church, used secretly by foreign workers. That moment planted a seed inside me. I did not understand it, but my heart felt pulled toward it. From that day, curiosity became my silent companion. I began to ask my tutors questions, but I did so carefully. When they noticed my interest drifting, their faces hardened. They warned me about forbidden beliefs. They reminded me of punishment, prison, and death. Their warnings were not spoken gently. They were meant to scare me back into silence, and they worked, at least on the outside. Inside, the hunger grew stronger. At night, I remembered stories I overheard from workers who came from other countries. They spoke quietly about a man named Jesus, about love, forgiveness, and peace. They never preached to me directly. They simply lived differently. Even when they were treated harshly, they showed kindness. Even when they were afraid, they had hope. Watching them confused me deeply. I started to feel guilt for even thinking these thoughts. Fear sat in my chest every day. I knew the law. I knew the punishment. Apostasy was not forgiven. Women who disobeyed were not protected. Princess or not, I would not be spared. The palace that once felt safe now felt like a cage. The pressure grew heavier when my family began planning my future. Marriage talks started. My life was being arranged like a transaction. No one asked what I wanted. No one cared what I felt. I smiled when required, bowed my head when instructed, and cried only when I was alone. Persecution does not always begin with chains. Sometimes it begins with control, silence, and fear. I remember one afternoon when I was punished for refusing to attend a gathering. I was locked in my room for hours. The guards stood outside my door. No food was brought until nightfall. The message was clear. Obedience was survival. Disobedience was suffering. As I sat on the cold floor, hunger in my stomach and fear in my mind, something changed inside me. I realized that even if I obeyed forever, I would still be imprisoned inside myself. That realization terrified me more than death. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I decided to seek the truth, no matter the cost. I did not know then how much pain awaited me. I did not know how severe the persecution would become. I did not know that this curiosity would lead me to chains, judgment, and a sentence of death. All I knew was that my heart could no longer live in silence, and so in secret my journey began. I never thought a single step could separate my old life from a new one. But that day, my feet carried me toward danger, fear, and a truth that would cost me everything. What happened next did not come with noise or warning. It came quietly, like a breath, and yet it changed my heart forever. It was still 2016, and I was still 19 years old. But I no longer felt young or protected. Fear had aged me quickly. That morning, the palace felt heavier than usual. The walls looked taller. The guards looked stricter. Every sound echoed like a warning. I moved carefully, pretending everything was normal, even though my heart was racing. I had arranged the outing through layers of permission and lies. I used excuses that were common for someone of my position. No one questioned me too deeply. That was the danger of power. People assumed obedience simply because of my title. I covered myself fully before leaving. My face was hidden. My hands trembled as I entered the vehicle. The city outside looked alive, but I felt invisible. Every turn of the road felt like a test. I kept thinking about the punishment waiting for me if anyone discovered where I was going. The driver stopped several streets away from the place I had seen before. I walked the rest of the way. My steps were slow. My breath felt shallow. I kept looking behind me. Fear followed me like a shadow. The building was small and plain. No signs, no loud sounds. It looked unimportant to the world, but to me it felt powerful. I hesitated before entering. I remembered the stories of prison, beating, and death. I remembered the faces of women who disappeared. I remembered how punishment was used to break people until they agreed to survive in silence. Still, I stepped inside. The air felt different. Not magical, not dramatic, just calm. People were sitting quietly. Some had tired faces. Some looked poor. Some looked afraid, like me. Yet there was something they shared. Peace. Not the kind forced by fear, but the kind that comes from hope. No one stared at me. No one asked questions. That alone shocked me. I was used to being watched, judged, and controlled. Here, I was just another human being. I sat at the back, my heart pounding. I did not understand everything I saw, but I felt something I had never felt before. Safety without power. Love without threat. A woman noticed me shaking. She moved closer and showed me kindness through her actions. She guided me gently, not with commands, but with care. Later, she revealed to me through simple gestures and shared moments that this place was about love, forgiveness, and a God who sees suffering. A man stood at the front and spoke calmly. I could not remember his exact words, but I understood the message. He spoke about Jesus as someone who stood with the weak, who suffered unfairly, and who did not answer violence with violence. That idea confused me deeply. I had only known power that crushed and law that punished. As I listened, memories of my own pain came flooding back. The locked rooms, the hunger, the fear of speaking, the loneliness of being surrounded by people, yet never being heard. For the first time, I felt seen without being exposed. Tears rolled down my face. I tried to stop them, but they would not obey me. No one punished me for crying. No one told me to stop. That alone felt unreal. I stayed longer than I planned. Each minute felt dangerous, yet precious. When it was time to leave, fear rushed back into my body. I knew returning to the palace meant returning to rules, suspicion, and silence. Before I left, the woman showed me a small book and explained its meaning through actions and simple explanations. I did not take it with me. I was too afraid. Even carrying such an item could mean death. That fear reminded me that persecution does not end at the door. It follows you home. The walk back felt longer. Every sound made me jump. Every person looked like a threat. By the time I reached the vehicle, my legs felt weak. Back in the palace, I washed my hands again and again, not because they were dirty, but because I felt guilty and afraid. I hid my emotions behind practiced calm. I bowed my head. I followed rules. No one noticed the storm inside me. That night, I did not sleep. I kept seeing the faces from that small room. I kept feeling the peace I was not allowed to have. I knew then that my life had crossed a line that could not be erased. I had tasted freedom, and I knew that persecution would come for me soon. The day my secret was uncovered did not begin with shouting or chaos. It began with silence so heavy that my body knew danger had finally arrived. I had no warning, no time to escape, and no place to hide. Days passed after my visit beyond the palace walls, but fear never left me. I walked carefully. I spoke less. I avoided eye contact. I tried to erase every sign of what had changed inside me. Yet persecution has a way of finding people, even when they are silent. Someone had noticed my absence that day. Someone had reported unusual movement. I never learned who it was. In places ruled by fear, betrayal often wears a familiar face. One morning, guards entered my chamber earlier than usual. Their movements were sharp and cold. Their eyes avoided mine, not out of respect, but out of judgment. One of them informed me through stern gestures and authority that I was to follow them immediately. My heart dropped. I was taken through halls I had never walked before. The palace that once glittered now felt dark and narrow. Every step echoed like a countdown. My hands shook, but I forced myself to stand straight. I knew weakness would only invite harsher treatment. I was brought into a room with no windows. Men sat across from me. Their faces showed no emotion. Papers lay on the table. My name was written there, but it no longer felt like mine. They revealed to me that I was being accused of abandoning the faith. They showed me records of my movements. They exposed details I never thought anyone knew. Each revelation felt like a blade cutting deeper into my chest. I tried to explain myself carefully, but my voice trembled. They did not listen with open hearts. They listened to confirm guilt. In their eyes, curiosity itself was a crime. One man stood and explained the punishment through firm gestures and legal words. I understood clearly. The law did not allow mercy. Repentance was demanded, not chosen. Obedience was forced, not offered. I was given a chance to deny everything, to return to silence, to survive by lying, but my heart refused. That moment sealed my fate. They ordered my confinement. I was taken to a detention room beneath the palace. The air was cold. The walls were bare. The door closed with a sound I still hear in my dreams. Days turned into suffering. I was questioned repeatedly. Each session drained my strength. Sleep was taken from me. Food was reduced. Light stayed on to break my sense of time. I was isolated so my thoughts would turn against me. They showed me images of punishment. They revealed stories of others who had chosen wrongly. They reminded me again and again that death was waiting. As a woman, the shame was heavier. They told me my actions dishonored my family. They showed me how my name would be erased. They explained how my body would be treated as a warning to others. I felt small. I felt afraid. I felt human. Yet even in that place, something inside me refused to die. I remembered the peace from that small room. I remembered kindness without force. I remembered that suffering did not mean abandonment. One night, after another harsh session, I collapsed on the floor. My body ached. My throat burned from crying without sound. I thought of my childhood, my lost freedom, and the life I would never live. That was when the final decision was delivered. A guard returned and revealed to me that I had been sentenced to execution. The date was already chosen. The method already decided. My life was now counted in days. I was returned to my cell, alone with the truth. Persecution had reached its peak. I was no longer a princess. I was a condemned soul, waiting for death because I dared to seek truth. When the night came, it felt as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see whether I would live or disappear forever. That night did not belong to time. It belonged to fear, pain, and a silence that pressed against my chest until breathing felt like work. The day of my execution arrived quietly. No bells rang. No announcements were made. That silence was more terrifying than shouting. Guards came for me before dawn. They moved with purpose, not anger. To them, I was no longer a person. I was a task. They bound my hands tightly. The rope burned my skin. My wrists were already weak from confinement, and the pressure sent sharp pain through my arms. I tried to stand strong, but my legs trembled. Hunger had made my body light, almost empty. As they led me through the corridors, I noticed details I had never seen before. Cracks in the walls, dust on the floor, faded patterns in the tiles. My mind clung to these small things because facing the truth felt unbearable. I was taken outside, where the air was cold. The sky was dark, with no stars. I wondered if the world had turned away from me. I wondered if anyone would remember my name after that night. They placed me in a holding area near the execution ground. I could hear distant sounds of preparation, metal against metal, Slow footsteps, controlled movements. Every sound reminded me that my life was being measured and prepared for its end. Fear washed over me in waves. My body reacted before my mind could. My heart raced. My breath came in short bursts. I felt sick. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I had been taught all my life to stay quiet. Memories flooded my mind. I remembered being a child, running through the palace gardens, unaware of laws and punishment. I remembered laughter that felt distant now. I remembered the small church room and the peace that had wrapped around my heart like warmth. That memory hurt the most. A guard stood nearby, watching me closely. His face was unreadable. He did not insult me. He did not comfort me. His silence reminded me how alone I was. Time moved slowly. Every minute felt like an hour. They allowed me to sit on the cold ground. My body shook, not just from fear, but from weakness. I realized how fragile I was. All the power of my birth meant nothing now. Titles could not protect me. Wealth could not save me. Persecution had stripped me down to a single truth. I was human. As the moment drew closer, my fear reached its peak. My mind searched desperately for hope. I thought about the teachings I had witnessed. I thought about Jesus standing with those who suffered unjustly. I did not know how to pray properly. I only knew how to feel. Inside my heart, I reached out. Not with perfect words, not with strength, but with desperation. I acknowledged my fear. I acknowledged my weakness. I placed my life into hands I could not see but somehow trusted. In that moment, I felt exposed, broken, and honest for the first time in my life. The guards began moving again. I knew the next steps would be final. Tears streamed down my face. My vision blurred. My body felt heavy, yet my heart felt strangely alert, as if something unseen was near. I did not know what would happen next. All I knew was that the night of my execution had arrived, and I was standing at the edge between death and something I could not yet understand. I thought the end of my life would come with pain and darkness, but instead, something happened that broke fear itself and changed my story forever. What I witnessed that night still shakes my heart, because it proved to me that persecution is real, suffering is deep, but hope is stronger than death. I was still bound when they led me forward. My feet dragged against the ground. My body felt weak, thin, and tired from hunger, fear, and sleepless nights. Every step reminded me of what persecution had done to me. Bruises marked my skin. My spirit had been pressed down again and again, yet it was not broken. As I stood there, waiting for the final moment, something inside me became very still. The noise around me faded. Fear loosened its grip, even though danger was still close. I felt aware in a new way, like my heart was awake while my body was ready to give up. In that stillness, I sensed a presence, not loud, not violent, just strong and calm. It felt like being seen completely, without judgment. I felt comfort where there should have been terror. I felt peace where death was expected. I could not explain it, but I knew I was not alone. Suddenly, confusion spread among the guards. Movements stopped, orders were delayed. Faces that were once firm now showed fear and uncertainty. Something had changed the atmosphere, and everyone felt it. One of the officers stepped back. Another looked around as if expecting something unseen. I remained still, my heart beating fast but steady. In that moment, I understood without words that Jesus was with me, not as a story, not as an idea, but as living help. I was not rescued by my title. I was not saved by power. I was not spared because of influence. I was spared by mercy. Events unfolded quickly after that. The execution was halted. I was taken away, not to die, but to be held under secret watch. Later, through careful explanations and guarded movements, I learned that fear had stopped the hands meant to kill me. Authority had been challenged by something they could not control. Persecution did not end that day, but death did not take me. My body was still weak. My future was uncertain. I remained under strict control. I lost my freedom, my position, and my old life. But I gained something greater. I gained life with purpose. I learned that following Jesus does not remove suffering. It often increases it. I lived under watch. I endured isolation. I carried scars that never faded. Yet inside me lived hope that could not be chained. Persecution took my comfort. Persecution took my safety. Persecution took my name. But it could not take my faith. Today, as I share this story, I speak for many who cannot speak. Many believers across the world are imprisoned, beaten, rejected, and killed simply because they chose truth. They are mothers, fathers, children, and young people who suffer quietly while the world looks away. I ask you, as you finish reading, to pray for them. Pray for strength for those in prison. Pray for comfort for those who lost family. Pray for courage for those hiding their faith. Pray for mercy to reach even the persecutors. And if you feel in your heart that you want to turn away from sin and follow Jesus, you can do so right now. You can quietly acknowledge your need for forgiveness, believe that Jesus gave his life out of love, and surrender your heart to him. You can ask him to guide you, cleanse you, and give you new life. He listens to sincere hearts no matter where you are. My story is not just about survival. It is about faith under fire. It is about love under persecution. It is about light that darkness could not overcome. And it is about Jesus who intervenes when all hope seems lost.